You're lying on the ground. You're old. You're tired. And you know, deep down, you're not waking up tomorrow. But there's something on your mind. Not fear, not pain. Something stranger. Who gets my stuff? Your spear, your tools, that warm spot by the fire, the stretch of land where the good animals cross, the beads around your neck that took you 3 winters to make. You can't write. There are no lawyers. There's no courthouse. There's no piece of paper with your name on it. There's not even a word for lawyer yet. And yet somehow, you have to decide. Because if you don't decide, people are going to fight, maybe kill each other over your stuff. The second your eyes close. So how did they do it? How did humans, thousands of years before written law, figure out who inherits what? The answer is way weirder and honestly way more clever than you'd ever expect. Because it wasn't one rule. It was a whole invisible system, passed down in whispers and habits that quietly shaped every family on Earth. Buckle up. Let's dig in. Real quick, if the idea of ancient people arguing over Grandpa's spear already made you smile, do me one tiny favor. Hit that like button. Seriously, it takes 1 second, and it tells YouTube to show this to more curious people like you. And if you're new here, subscribe. This whole channel is me digging into the weird human stuff nobody ever taught you in school. You're gonna love it. Okay, back to the dead guy and his spear. Here's the thing most people never think about. Inheritance is ancient, older than money, older than farming, maybe older than language itself. Why? Because the moment humans started owning anything, they had a problem. Stuff outlives people. Think about it. You die, but your beautifully sharpened hand axe doesn't die with you. It just sits there, useful, valuable, and everyone in the group knows it. So a dead person leaves behind a little pile of power. And power that nobody controls? That's a fight waiting to happen. Early humans figured out something fast. If there's no rule for who gets the stuff, the strongest guy just takes it. And that breaks the group apart. People stop trusting each other. The whole tribe gets weaker. So they needed a system. Not because they were nice, because chaos gets you killed. Now, let's go way, way back. Before farms, before villages, to the hunter-gatherers. And here's the twist. For most of human history, there wasn't much to inherit. I'm serious. If you're a nomad, always moving, chasing herds, following the seasons, you can only own what you can carry. A spear, a knife, a skin, some tools. That's it. You're not hauling a couch across the savannah. There's no house. There's no bank account. There's no land with a fence around it, because tomorrow you're 20 miles away. So inheritance back then was simple, almost boringly simple. When you died, your few personal things got handed to whoever was closest. Your kid, your hunting partner, your best friend. Sometimes the tools got buried with you. That's a huge clue, by the way. We found ancient graves stuffed with tools, weapons, and jewelry. And for a long time, people thought, oh, that's just religion. That's for the afterlife. Maybe. But there's another reason. If the stuff goes in the ground with the dead guy, nobody living has to fight over it. Problem solved. The grave was the world's first neutral referee. But here's what really blows my mind. The most valuable thing ancient humans inherited, you couldn't even hold in your hands. Knowledge. Think about it. Your dad knew which plants were poison and which ones were dinner. Your mom knew where the water was in a drought. Your grandmother knew the songs, the stories, the maps of the land locked inside her head. That's the inheritance that actually mattered. Not the spear, the skill to use it. Not the land, the knowledge of where the animals go. And this stuff got passed down carefully, deliberately. An elder would pick who to teach, who gets the secret fishing spot, who learns the healing plants, who inherits the stories. That was a choice, a real decision about legacy, and it shaped who became powerful in the next generation. You didn't get rich by getting objects. You got rich by getting knowledge. The predators had teeth. Humans had a library living inside people's heads that got passed down one generation to the next and never stopped growing. Okay, now everything changes. Around 10,000 years ago, humans do the most disruptive thing in our entire history. We start farming. And suddenly, for the first time ever, you can own something you can't carry: land. This is enormous because land doesn't move. Land doesn't die. Land makes food every single year, forever, if you take care of it. A field is basically a machine that prints food. So now the inheritance question gets deadly serious. Who gets the field? Because whoever gets the field gets to eat, gets to feed a family, gets to be somebody. And you can't just bury a field with grandpa. It stays. It has to go to someone living. This is the moment inheritance stopped being simple and became the thing that would shape human society for the next 10,000 years. This one question, who gets the land, built kings, built classes, built rich families and poor families that stayed that way for centuries. So how'd they solve it? Different cultures, different answers. But one solution shows up again and again across the whole planet. Give it all to the oldest son. We call it primogeniture. Fancy word, simple idea. The firstborn gets basically everything. Now, that sounds brutally unfair, right? And it kind of is. But here's the cold logic behind it. If you split the farm between 5 kids, you get 5 tiny farms. Split those between their kids, and now you've got 25 useless little patches of dirt that can't feed anybody. So keeping the land in one piece, one heir, kept the family strong, kept the wealth together. It was cold, it was harsh, and it was weirdly effective. But it created losers. What about the other kids? The younger sons, the daughters? Well, the younger sons often had to leave, go join the army, become priests, go find their own land, sometimes by taking someone else's. A huge amount of history, wars, exploration, conquest, was basically driven by younger sons with no inheritance and something to prove. Now, before you think this was all just oldest boy wins everywhere, hold on, because it wasn't. Plenty of ancient societies did it completely differently, and some of them ran through the mother's line. We call it matrilineal inheritance. In these cultures, your stuff, your name, your land, your status passed down through the women. A man's wealth might go not to his own kids, but to his sister's kids, his nephews. Sounds bizarre, right? But there's a logic even there. In some cultures, you could always be sure who the mother was. The father? Not always so certain. So passing wealth through the mother's line was a way of guaranteeing it stayed with actual blood family. And in these societies, women often held serious power. They controlled the land. They controlled the home. They decided who got what. So this idea that inheritance was always a man's game? Nope. History is way more interesting than that. Here's another piece people totally miss: marriage. Because marriage wasn't about love back then. Not mostly. It was about inheritance. Think about it. If you're a family with land, who your kid marries decides who gets that land next. Marry the wrong person and your wealth walks out the door. So families used marriage like a chess move. You marry your daughter to that family, now your 2 piles of wealth combine into one bigger pile. You keep it in the bloodline. You lock in alliances. This is why arranged marriages ran the world for thousands of years. It wasn't romance. It was estate planning. Every wedding was basically 2 families merging their assets. And dowries, bride prices, all that stuff, that was the paperwork of the deal. A way of moving wealth around at exactly the moment 2 families joined up. Marriage was the ancient world's version of a merger. But okay, what happened when someone died with no children? No obvious heir at all? This is where it gets clever, because ancient people came up with backup plans. One big one: adoption. And I don't mean adopting a cute little baby. In the ancient world, you could adopt a grown adult specifically to make them your heir. The Romans did this constantly. Some of their most famous emperors weren't sons at all. They were adopted as adults, purely to inherit power. You picked the best candidate and made him family on paper. Legacy over blood. And if there was no heir and no plan, the wealth often went back to the group, to the community, to the temple, to the ruler. Nothing was ever allowed to just sit there, ownerless. Because remember, ownerless wealth is a fight waiting to happen. And then finally, humans invented the thing we still use today, the will. The moment writing showed up, people started writing down exactly who gets what. And these are some of the oldest documents we've ever found. We've dug up clay tablets, thousands of years old, that are basically last wills and testaments. Ancient people carefully listing their fields, their animals, their slaves, their silver, and naming exactly who inherits each piece. Just sit with that for a second. Some of humanity's very first writing wasn't poetry. It wasn't prayers. It was people making absolutely sure their kids didn't fight over the goats. That's so beautifully human, isn't it? The second we could write, one of the first things we wrote was, "Here's who gets my stuff, and don't you dare argue." So step back and look at what really happened here. Inheritance wasn't just about passing down things. It was the invisible machine that built human society itself. It decided who had power and who didn't. It created the rich and the poor. It built royal families that ruled for centuries. It sparked wars. It drove people across oceans. It shaped who you'd marry, where you'd live, and whether your kids would eat. Every rule, the firstborn takes all, the mother's line, the arranged marriage, the adopted heir, the clay tablet will, every single one was humans solving the same ancient problem. Stuff outlives people, so who gets it? And here's the wild part. We're still solving it. You've got wills, trusts, family drama over grandma's house, that awkward silence at the reading of the will. That's not modern. That's 10,000 years old. That's in your bones. Our ancestors couldn't take anything with them, not one single thing. And they knew it. So they did something no other animal on Earth has ever done. They reached past their own death and decided the future. They shaped a world they'd never lived to see. That spear, that field, that story whispered to a grandchild by the fire. It was all one quiet, powerful idea. I won't always be here, but what I leave behind will be. And honestly, that might be the most human thing we've ever done.